It is a very singular thing. It is very singular. People are always asking if anyone has ever seen a ghost. I have. The Kamchatka was one of my favourite ships. I say was because she no longer is. Those of us who cross the pond with regularity do not take voyages of this length lightly, and many sailors will wait for their favourite ships before making passage. 105, if you please. The steward took my portmanteau. A strange expression came over his face. He muttered under his breath and led me below deck to 105 on the port side. The steward deposited my things, and seeing he was anxious to leave, I pressed 3 coins in his hand before he scurried off to his other duties. We left punctually, the motion of the steamer providing a refreshing breeze in the warm and sultry weather. The usual sights took my interest. Passengers paced the deck, staring at each other, and the odd chance meeting of friends who didn't know the other was on board. That night I turned in early. To my surprise and dismay, I discovered I had a roommate for the duration of the passage. The threadbare curtains were almost pulled, revealing his possessions neatly laid out. What on earth? Good Lord, the room was freezing. It was as if I was out in the open air. Poor fellow. He must be seasick, and I was in the worst place for it on the lower berth. I closed my eyes and dozed until daybreak. The next morning, I dressed hurriedly, keen to avoid my roommate, and rushed out onto deck. There, the ship's doctor was grabbing a breath of fresh air himself. "Fine morning," he greeted me. "Indeed," said I, despite the damp in my room that has rather chilled me to the bone. "Damp?" he exclaimed. "That's unusual. Whereabouts are you?" 105. The same look that took the steward now passed over the doctor's face. I should complain, and to add to that, I have a deuce of a roommate that takes to bolting out of bed in the middle of the night, leaving the porthole wide open. "Look," said the doctor, "I don't wish to alarm you, but the last 3 people to have slept in 105 have all gone overboard. Share my room with me, though I don't know you from Adam. It would be my pleasure to see you away from that room." The last thing I wanted was to make a fuss, and however silly it seemed, I didn't doubt the sincerity of the good doctor. I decided I would stay put for the time being and return to my quarters. My roommate must have returned. His curtains were tightly pulled shut. Later that day, the captain came to find me, asking the whereabouts of my companion, fearing he had followed the others overboard.
"Good afternoon, sir. We seem to be missing your room."
Again, I declined the offer of another cabin. Now I would have the stateroom to myself. On the second night, I had just drifted off to sleep. I was badly bruised, and that wretched porthole was wide open. To add insult to injury, I would be a crown poorer. I had placed a bet with the steward. He said no man could keep the porthole shut all night, and now he was proved right. I was not alone. Someone, or something, was in the upper berth. I returned to my room expecting it to be awash with icy seawater, but to my disappointment, the bedding was dry. There is something wrong with that place. I have been frightened half to death. I can tell, said the captain. Change your mind about sharing with the doctor? Will you help me? I asked. I will, though it is not in my expertise to meddle with ghostly things. I refused to believe I had seen a ghost. Together we set the room, I closed the porthole, and he jammed the door shut. If we see anything now, it is our imagination, or something supernatural. We both sat on the lower berth, our eyes glued to the porthole. They all jumped to their death from the stern of the ship, a horrified look on each of their faces as if they were running from the devil. The stench of rancid, salty water filled our nostrils. I saw something. Don't let it escape. It was gone, and miraculously we were alive. Well, do you want to hear more? There is nothing more. That is the end of my story. If you take passage on the Kamchatka, you will find a different captain, and cabin 105 permanently engaged. Engaged by that dead thing.